welcome back to another episode of the Buffalo Happy Hour. Mike, what's going on?
Derek, we are back with our good friends at BriarBrothers Brewing, and we figured round two makes sense at this point just because we have officially watched you guys transition and build this endeavor, which is super exciting because now all of our friends and family are super jealous every time we come down and see you guys.
True.
But yeah, let's start with, for anyone that's new, brand new subscribers, whatever, we'll start with intros, titles, and then we'll just dive right into all things BriarBrothers.
Sweet.
Go ahead.
All right. So my name is Dylan Betty. I am the head brewer and co-founder of BriarBrothers Brewing Company.
And I am Joel Betty, co-owner and head of operations at BriarBrothers Brewing Company.
So you guys were like one of our first interviews. What was it, 6 or something like that?
Yeah.
It was insane. How
Within
long ago
top
that
10.
was.
Within
Yeah.
the top 10.
Yeah.
So we started in your apartment,
Yeah. Where it all began.
which is insane.
Yeah.
What is it like transitioning from being a home brewer to doing this now?
Yeah. I think that there's, not even that, but kind of just going back to what you stated about being in our apartment and then being here now. Today as I was driving here and, thinking about the interview and whatnot, to kind of reflect back on, you guys walking into sitting in our dining room and the homebrewing equipment behind us on display and seeing where that, from then to now, what's unfolded and how, we've progressed and evolved and how you guys have progressed and evolved. It is such a surreal thing. And I think anybody who, our friends and family and anybody that you guys told about your business endeavor and what you wanted to, accomplish, I don't think anybody would have ever thought that we'd be here now, where what you guys have done, where we are now. So, I think it's very cool, and it's again being here is surreal. Being here right now doing this interview is very cool to me because of just if you were to watch these interviews back to back, what's elapsed, what's happened in between these two videos is nuts for all four of us. So.
Yeah,
Well,
I think,
cheers, boys, because we're all
cheers.
still around.
Yeah,
Oh,
right.
yeah.
We've
That's
survived.
definitely applause.
Cheers.
All right. But yeah, I think kind of building off of what Dylan was saying too is, again, same thing goes for all of us. With how fast things do move, it is difficult to get to a point and step back and try to realize and appreciate what you have done, what you have, and kind of what's going to happen. So, I mean, similar to what Dylan was saying as well, kind of thinking about and leading up to this, it was kind of one of those first moments where we were able to take a step back and actually look at where we are and how we got there. And again, it's just been a ride that we'll never forget, obviously, and we've always been appreciative. So
I mean, have you guys had a chance, just like you were saying, right now you kind of did that, but have you guys had a chance to step back and breathe? Because you both are still working full-time jobs. Like that, opening up a brewery right now has to be so challenging, but also the fact that you still are both working full-time, I don't know if you've had that luxury to just like sit back and enjoy beer and just relax. Have you?
Here and there, we find time now. As we've grown, even as young as we are, we've realized things that we can handle and where we can take time to actually sit together, just relax and kick back and kind of just unwind a bit. So, I mean, now on occasion, yes, we find those moments, but it took us a while.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. We get asked that quite a bit, family, friends, everybody say, look around, do you believe what's kind of unfolded here? And yes and no. Again, for Joel and I walking in here 7 days a week, most weeks, and being typically pretty tired or, exhausted and, running off adrenaline, it's hard to kind of appreciate what you have, just again, being here so much and seeing it. But then on the nights that we're not here, or then we do come here and we're come here as clients or patrons, and seeing everybody here, friends gathering, family gathering, enjoying the product that we make, that to me, that is where I start to be able to sort of take in that what we've done.
Sure.
So again, it's a grind, and again, coming in here exhausted, it's hard to appreciate it, but we make sure that when we do have the moment to appreciate it, that we do take it all in full. So
Now, that transition from apartment to brewery, the four of us understand that it was a journey. It was a process, and it wasn't necessarily super smooth just because of the process in itself. Nothing you guys did wrong. Now that it's over with and we can reflect and kind of like time lapse it, what was that process like and how was it to open something in the city of Buffalo
To
and
find this place, like all that.
like everything, because there's so much to that.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think going into it, we had some like time frames that were pushed back due to of course COVID and whatnot. But what many thought would have been like a setback was honestly feels like the best thing that could have happened in terms of business-wise and business decisions for us. If that were not the case, we definitely would not have come across this place. Two, we had the opportunity to continue to refine and develop a lot of our recipes and kind of never rush it. Being able to take our time, do things the right way was something that we always said we were going to do, and I think that whole time allowed us to do it.
Yeah, for sure. Right. And
Your first time drinking?
hey, you okay
Yeah,
there?
clearly. Jeez. I'm not okay. I'm not well.
And again, to kind of piggyback off what Joel said, is that we never really set ourselves a deadline of when we needed to be open as an official, as a brewery. We wanted to do it, as soon as possible, just because we wanted to keep that that fire burning and that just the momentum going. But again, it really allowed us to sort of being not too aggressive, but still being aggressive on our approach and sort of our intro into this business in this field. Again, it really just we had the ability to sort of ease into it and kind of be as prepared as possible. Now there are so many things that we learned on the way, but again, being able to sort of sit back and kind of just take the slower road to it. Again, I think it worked in our benefit.
Did you know this place existed when you were originally searching?
No.
Can you talk a little bit about finding this place and what this place means? Because every time somebody comes in here, they look at the augers and they're like, what even is this place? So can you give a little history on that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the way that we came about this place was from our mutual friend, Tom. He goes to the barber shop here and, helped him out a little bit with his logo and his design. And, being as helpful and thoughtful as he is, he kind of just tipped us off on this place. He said, have you guys ever been here? And the answer was no. We've looked everywhere between, West Seneca, Williamsville, city of Buffalo, everywhere in between. And this place never crossed our radar. So we planned a trip to come down here. We walked right through to the parking lot and looked up, and it was just kind of one of those moments where it was love at first sight in its own way, and it just seemed impossible that nobody had ever come across this and had taken advantage of a place like this, and with all the history that it has. And I know Dylan will probably elaborate a little bit on that history, but I mean, it's just one of the best finds that we could have ever imagined, and someplace we never saw ourselves.
Which it's credit to you guys for saying yes. Let's not give Tom any credit or shout-outs. He doesn't need that.
That's fair.
He did charge an aggressive finder's fee when we closed, but
We're still waiting for him to buy his first beer, I think.
True.
But yeah, and like Joel has mentioned, when we first saw the building, when we toured the place, it was love at first sight, and it was after we left that meeting and touring the facility with the property owners, Young and Wright Architecture. That was the only thing we thought about going forward. It was, how do we secure this location, because this place encaptured a very large vision of what Joel and I had and what we wanted BriarBrothers to be. We were always, when we were looking for locations, we wanted rustic, we wanted that bare bones raw look. And with this place, there wasn't much you had to do to accomplish that, other than make it safe for people to come in here.
Sure.
But and again, so when we saw the place and when we left that day, it was, how do we get in here? Because this is BriarBrothers.
Sure.
It fit perfectly what we were looking for.
Being the space that it is, and like it being a Buffalo historical site, and all the equipment that goes into brewing and just making this place a usable space was something that we were very kind of weary of, because of how this place is built, this historical, I guess, instructions that you kind of have to follow to maintain its, preserve it. But again, credit to Young and Wright Architects. Anything that we thought would be a hurdle, they found the way to overcome it without us feeling any stress or strain on it.
Yeah.
There's like a running joke that anytime that we presented like a hiccup or anything that could have been an issue, there was always, and it was never like there's always a solution to it, and it was never felt like it was sort of like a rush solution. They're like, oh yeah, we'll do this, and we're like, when are you going to tell us no?
Right.
Like when are you going to say that no, this is the bottom line, like this, we can't do it, like it's not possible, and it just never happened. And
Because we kept getting farther and farther in the process, and kind of developing the build out and all of that, and then we'd find something that we thought was going to be an issue, and then it was like, oh, it was almost like a mini heartbreak when we were thinking of these, and then having to be like, okay, are you going to be the one to bring it up and ask him? Are you going to be the one to bring it up and send him an email and just wait for that reply back? But again, none of it ever came to fruition. None of it was an issue, and they were able to build this place out beyond what we were even able to kind of dream of.
What's an example of that? Like a small obstacle?
yeah, so let me think here, because there were quite a few.
Like water lines, or like along those lines? No pun intended.
No, it wasn't, and it wasn't so much water, anything in that. It was
Power
output, drilling holes into the side of the building. Again, with it being a historic building, there are some preservations that have to be maintained on the facility. And so when we were working with our tank manufacturer, Ultimate Brew Service, and they worked beautifully with Young and Wright, that communication was seamless between the two of them, which again made this process even more seamless for us. But again, things like that, like just structure-wise, adjustments to the building. And what was nice, and what you've kind of started to learn, and I can't speak too much on it, but when you're working with the Historic Society, I think they care so much about the effort and the time and the energy that's being put into revitalizing these buildings, is that they won't really tell you no about too much. Again, now we've never worked directly with them, but it's just something that I've experienced. As long as you're not requesting to make radical changes to the structure of the building, they tend to sort of work with you because at the end of the day, it's about making these buildings, revitalizing them and bringing them back to life, and getting people in here and preserving Buffalo history in a way.
I think that's interesting, because with you guys being a brewery and this being a malt house, if another business tried to come in here and remove those augers, maybe that would have been the breaking point to say, we're not doing this, because this literally is this building. We can't take away that history.
Right, yeah, and absolutely. And I think those augers were part of the deal when they did the initial build out before we even came in here, because those were already there, they've been there for, dozens of years.
Hundreds.
Yeah. So, again, I think so as well. I think with us wanting to keep that raw look, that there really wasn't much that was too much of a tiff for anybody to really.
Yeah, we get that question all the time. It's like, were those augers here when did you bring them in? And it was always like, no, these were here, and we couldn't remove them if we wanted to. I mean, more so out of the physical being of it, just because of how massive and heavy they are. But I mean, again, just as Dylan was saying, it was exactly the vibe, the feel, and just the atmosphere that we really wanted, and had no idea how to put it in words.
Yeah. So take us back all the way to the thought process of you saying, okay, we brewed beer at home until this time. Now it's time to open the brewery, and then you guys started a Kickstarter. Like, what was your expectation with starting the Kickstarter? Did you expect it to blow up? Because it seemed like it reached the goal relatively quickly compared to what you guys were hoping for. So can you go into that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, the idea was just to kind of help us put down, a deposit towards the business loan that we needed to file. So, I mean, that was the goal. That's where we set our mark at, and we were just hoping and, expecting that somebody really was bought into, who we were and how we were doing things. And, I mean, as you mentioned, we hit the goal and surpassed the goal in about 2.5 weeks, I believe. Most of family was excluded from that. They had, we had told them, this is something that we're trying to do on our own, see if we can get that outreach from some other help and other people that just want to believe in it. So that way we can kind of get a gauge on how well we will be received if and when we ultimately do open a place. So, going in it, again, it was just kind of like, okay, 60 days, let's hope for the best, see what happens. And then 2.5 weeks later, it was just phenomenal, because again, there weren't any, or if there weren't many large donations of $1,000+
Sure.
It was just hundreds of people doing what they can and doing what they could to try and that heard our story and wanted to see it come to fruition.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that was the most humbling couple of weeks that we've ever had, and to be there and to kind of see those people's names come in and those donations come in was something we can never forget, and it's super humbling.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why we have the name the name wall in the brewery itself, because as Joel mentioned, those 2 weeks of and just being taken back by the outreach and the support from all these people that unfortunately we may not have had the luxury of knowing personally, name to name. Seeing all those names on the wall over here is just a reminder every day to Joel and I of the support that we have and the encouragement and the days that Joel and I again are dog tired and we're ready to give up, or we're ready to quit. I don't want to sound too corny, but when you look over there in a way, it's all these people who encourage you, who took a leap of faith with you a little bit, and so you owe them something too, to keep going and to keep trying, keep pushing limits, keep just keep going. Yeah. And so that definitely helps. And again, it was a reward for people, for donators, but it was also for us as a tool of encouragement to keep going. So we look at it both ways.
Yeah. So when you guys opened, there was a whole thought process on food. Is like, what is this brewery going to do for food? You guys started off with trying to get food trucks every day that you were open, basically, and I'm sure that got extremely stressful. So then you got pizza in, and then you and Hen House partnered up. So can you go into kind of what the thought process there was and kind of the whole trying to get a food truck experience of who do I have today?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, going into it, the only thing that pairs better with beer, or aside from another beer, is food. And so getting the food trucks here every weekend was exhausting, as you mentioned earlier. Between both of us still working our full-time jobs, then having to kind of bounce back with some of the logistics of finding people, making sure that we're doing the right advertisement for them and getting them here so that people know that they're here, not just kind of coming upon them on happenstance. So that got exhausting. And then the two guys over at Hen House, Sal and Alex, were some of the most easy people to communicate with. They were the most passionate. I mean, again, I say that with, openly. They were the most passionate about making sure their people knew that they were here and promoting who we were as well without ever meeting them before, and consistently just knocked food out of the park, and continue to this day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So primarily with them being in the North Towns, they were looking for a little bit of exposure to some people in the South Towns here who may not have had the opportunity to get some of their chicken. So, and we were looking for a permanent solution. So we got together one day, figured out logistics, and for them, they were happy to be here, and we couldn't be any happier that they're here.
Yeah. I'm sure that had to take a lot of stress off your plate from finding people, because I'm sure that there's been instances where people just like canceled like last minute, and then you're just like, what do we do now for food?
Yeah, exactly. And that's a deterror, especially, like I said, we do advertisements weekly basis, off of like over the summer who was playing on the patio and what food was going to be available for them. So, when you kind of have somebody bow out for, whatever reasons they might be, you can't just pass the buck and say it's because they, in a way, it's something that you have to take ownership of, and something that we wanted to kind of eliminate from being perceived as something that we were doing. So, again, having them here is something that's consistently been a solid product. The people that come in here and eat their food can't say enough about it. And we're guilty of having it a time or two a week as well. So
that's got to be tough too, though, because fried chicken gets pretty calorically high.
Oh, who's counting calories when you're drinking craft beer, Derek?
True. Good point.
That's a trip. So you guys crushed the food and the live music aspect, which I think is the other big piece to touch on, because I don't know if you guys, I'm sure you did. I know you did. I know you guys thought about, okay, parking at a brewery, like what does that look like? And when it was the first like 3 weeks that you guys were live, open, everything was rocking, one of my thoughts was, okay, if that initial parking lot is full, what happens? And then, lo and behold, normal things happen with people. It's just like, I'm parking right here. And then all of a sudden, everything, you just realize how much stone is out there, and people just file in. And I'm like, this is fantastic.
Yeah.
So you're basically parked on, what is it, the 190, and you're just hanging out, and then you're walking up, and you're seeing the silos, and then you're smelling the food, you're hearing the music, and then you go inside, and this place is just packed with people. Legally, of course. We're not exceeding occupancy. There's no concerns.
Of course, yeah.
Of course. But you got people just hanging out on the sides, and there's just like people watching. And it's a whole separate avenue of entertainment outside of what you guys already provided, because you're able to people watch, drink good beer, eat a really good meal, listen to music, and then just forget the fact that you're right on Elk Street. Like, it doesn't feel like Elk Street anymore. It's kind of like you just created this environment, which... Right, like it's good, but was there thought for that, or was that just an organic side effect of this location?
I'm gonna say it's 50-50. I don't want to give ourselves too much credit because it kind of things unfolded organically as to what they are now. When Joel and I were looking for locations, we approached it in two ways. One, as a consumer, right, as a patron, parking is huge. Again, if you have to park 3 blocks away on a city street and try to fight for parking or paying for parking in January, yeah, that's a deterrent to wanting to go to a location. So that was a big thing for us, is parking, which again, this place is ample of it, and it's private parking. We have the main parking lot here on the property, but we also have the additional stone lot across the street. So again, that was huge for us. Sort of that vibe that you were mentioning with the live music and whatnot, that was more organic now. That happened kind of as we started to notice things. Having the stage built into the silo, having a patio that is removed from a public road, right? So you don't have cars zipping by, you don't have that heavy traffic, that loud traffic, sort of creating this little sort of...
The bubble.
Right, in here.
Yeah.
That just came with the building in a way, right? Like, again, we didn't think too much into that when we found the place here. Again, we were trying to think in a broad manner, but in some ways, when we saw this location, or the facility itself, the tap room, and everything, that's where we fell in love with. Everything out there sort of happened organically, excluding the parking lot.
Sure.
So yeah, again, it's very cool to see. On summer nights when we have the fire pits going, live music, the lights are shining. It's a very cool atmosphere, and it's a cool vibe. And what's cool with the way that the building is set up, and with the silo just being concrete, it captures sound. So when you walk around, or when you drive past the brewery, it goes away. But the second that you turn that corner either way, it just, everything lights up, and you hear it, and you can see everybody, and it's just such a cool sort of atmosphere to approach. And it has eye appeal for people driving by in Orchard Park Road. They see everybody, they see all the cars, the music, and everything, and it gets people to say, what's going on there? And then they...
Yeah, it's like it's like an amphitheater.
Yeah.
Like when you get there, like, again, that concrete, that stone, that brick is just taking the music and just throwing it right in the right direction for everybody.
I'm sure the neighbors love that, because now they're not getting bombarded by just some random music if it's not hitting them. Because you drive down the street and you're like, where am I going?
Yeah.
The one part looks like a one-way, and you're like, am I going the right way?
Yeah.
I think I got to go here. But then you got like the big, huge light on the side of the building, and you're like, okay, I know where I'm going. But I'm sure the neighbors have to be... Like, have you had any interaction with the neighbors?
I mean, I was going to kind of build off of what Dylan was saying too, about like organically kind of building this vibe and this feel. We have to give credit to like this neighborhood itself. Like, I think I know that the people of this area have welcomed us with such like warm embraces, and I think there is sometimes a stigma with these new microbreweries or breweries popping up, where people are thinking that they're trying to almost gentrify this neighborhood and make it into this hoity-toity, pristine, spotless location where you kind of change the sanctity and what this place was built on. And so I think for a little while people had a little bit of a hesitation to kind of approach for that reason. But week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks after we opened the doors, and they noticed and they saw that we didn't want to change a thing about this place. We only wanted to help enrich it and make it more welcoming and make it more visible to people outside these few blocks. We've received, again, nothing but such an incredible response. I mean, some of the people that continue to come in here, weekly are people just around the block, and they're the most appreciative and giving people for
Yeah.
like, taking something like this that, you know, kids and people used to just sneak into and graffiti and throw
Right.
bottles and things like that, and take it into something that really kind of made it this place full circle. From, as you mentioned, again, it was a malt house for breweries all the way up until the early '80s, and then it sat abandoned for so many years. And then being able to kind of pay respect and homage to the you know, kind of what this place and what it was trying to do and what it was trying to build, I think is something that, well, I know is something that everybody in this neighborhood really appreciates.
That's really refreshing to hear because, I mean, sometimes people have to park on the street right in front of their houses. So I was always curious on what their response was. Some people could take that as this brewery's coming and taking my spots, but that's cool to know that they've kind of accepted you into their neighborhood. That's really refreshing to hear.
Definitely.
I think a lot of it is because you guys released your ideas and articulated it in a way where there wasn't necessarily like rules. It was just kind of guidelines, if this makes sense, where you basically told us the same thing. We're like, what are you thinking for this? When you guys you weren't even open yet, and we were just in here hanging out trying to figure out like what this actually looks like, which we were going over like commercial ideas, round 2 ideas, how can we help ideas, and you were like, all right, this is what we got. Like beer stuff over here, bar, tables and chairs, and then like outdoor patio, food trucks, live music. We'll go from there.
Yep.
And then that you like released that, like you opened, right? And then it was like 4 or 5 days before day 1, and you literally said just that. You're like, we got a bar, tables and chairs, outdoor patio, live music for day 1 open, and we're gonna have some food trucks. So like, come hang out. And that was it. So you allowed patrons to develop where they would naturally flow anyways, and then you didn't say anything, you just observed, which is a massive credit to you guys, because you had that like humble approach and this down-to-earth approach, which really is only going to come from like hometown dudes. Let's be honest, right? Like if you're an investor, then you don't understand the people of Buffalo, but you guys are from here, and you know what I mean, like West Seneca, and you just allowed people to just congregate where they congregate, flow where they flow, and then you built your business around what was naturally happening, which really built out this massive vibe where like you can wear a flannel or you can just wear work clothes, come get a beer, and then go home. And it's just like totally accepted across the board, and the flow of everything makes complete ergonomical sense. Like, go here, stand in line, get your beer, do whatever you want. Food's over there, rock and roll, say thanks to the peeps. Like, it's so easy. And then if you like, you want to buy a coaster or a t-shirt, like, let us know. Like, it's so easy.
Pay respect to the hydration station too, you know, like you gotta,
Every round. Every round. It's also in our commercial.
Oh, yeah.
We just got to represent the
That's my
hydration
favorite part.
station.
That's my favorite part of
Things clutch.
But you know, I what you're saying there is that you have to adapt. You have to, you have to hear what the consumer wants. If not, you're not going to survive. You're not going to make it.
Yeah.
And Joel and I, in our own rights, we may be hard-headed in certain ways, but when it comes to providing the best experience for our patrons, we are all ears, and we will hear every sort of idea that gets thrown our way. Or again, we are all eyes, and we will see the trends of what's happening on any given Friday, Saturday night. Again, granted, we haven't been open for a full year yet, but again, on the warmer nights, making sure that the patio is set up in time, and again, we have music playing out there at the right volume. So again, based on the time of day. So again, it's always continuously just learning what your consumers are telling you, and they might not even be telling you with their own words, but with their actions too. So again, that you have to adapt, you have to make adjustments to certain things where maybe in our head we thought was the right thing, but when you hear it or when you see it from other people, you say, oh wait, maybe that wasn't the best thing, or maybe this is how we improve the experience by changing this, moving this, offering this, and so on. And so that is something that we will continuously do, in year 3, 4, 5, knock on wood.
Yeah, right.
And again, just making sure that we are, again, providing the best experience possible.
I think a lot of that kind of going off of what you said, Mike, was just kind of, we're not those investor guys. We're not the guys with the suits and the ties.
Thank God.
Who have like had the experiences of running companies and successful businesses before. So adapting is part of the learning process for us as well. And I mean, we've been, again, if we're saying knock on wood, grateful and thankful that we've been learning the right way. And we've been learning from the right people, as Dylan said, such as the people that are continuously coming in here, showing their love, support, and drinking the beers.
I think it's important that you said that you're not those investor types, because that shows through with your pricing too. You have to be one of the most affordable breweries in the area. So how do you judge your pricing based off of, that another craft brewery can charge $12 for that? Like that's humbling, knowing that you guys are saying, we're not going to destroy you on prices. We're just here to put out a good product, and then you'll buy it at a price that benefits everybody. Like, that's so sick.
I think going back to what Dylan said earlier as well, was kind of like we had the idea of opening up a brewery tap room from experiences that we've had at breweries and tap rooms. So, whether it be that hydration station, props to the hydration station, or the reasonably priced beers, that's what we appreciated and enjoyed, and when we went to places.
Mm-hmm.
So we're able to charge the prices that we charge, and make it enjoyable for them, for the consumers, as well as make it at a point where it's not a burden to us. So I think that's something that we've always wanted to continue to do. Our grandfather said it. Your nickels will add up quicker than your dimes, and that's something that we continue to live by, and something that we want to continue to do moving forward.
That's a sweet phrase, because we have more nickels than dimes right now. So
Bro, we got more pennies than nickels is what we got. Okay, we got more pennies than nickels.
Well, I always had a not so savvy way of wording it when people asked us the pricing and whatnot, because it does get brought up, and mostly by family and friends. And I always just say that we're not looking to get rich off you in one day. We'll get rich off you in 2 years, in 3 years. Come back, tell your friends, and again, the money will come. But
yeah.
Everything we do, of course, has a strategic point to it as well, right? So again, it's not like we're
hoping to work our
Yeah.
every job for
Yeah.
the next 5 or 6 years. It's just we're still able to do it where it's not breaking either our banks or your banks.
You're helping out the
Right.
boys.
That's
You
what it's
guys
all
have
about.
OG fans that have tattoos of your logo. I
Wow.
mean, come on.
That's right.
Which he who shall not be named, graphic designer,
Yeah.
literally had a stroke when you told him that, just so we're all on the same page. He's
yeah.
like, seriously, I designed that. Now that's permanently on someone's body. That's probably one of my favorite stories. My other favorite point, I don't know if you guys remember this, but you specifically told me that it is okay to drink craft beer even if you do work out and go to the gym. It's not going to kill you. Do you remember telling me that? Like,
I was trying to convince myself probably at that point.
for real. This is like, what, 4 years ago?
Yeah.
That might have been the last time
And-
you were there.
Yeah, really. Yeah.
Well, there's no time now. There's no time. But when you told me that, I was like, all right, maybe I can actually dial it in. Like, there might
Yeah.
be a way.
Oh yeah. Everything's in moderation, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I think I found the balance.
Curling 16 ounces.
Well, yeah, but I think there is a way to do it, and I just want to put it out there as a PSA, but it was all heeded from your advice, and I thank you and appreciate you for that.
Of course.
Wow.
Serving the people,
That's it.
We gotta get some bro tanks.
Yeah.
Bro
Yeah, right.
tanks for the guy.
That say craft beer is okay to work out.
Yeah.
That'd be sweet. So
Craft
when
beers
you
and curls.
exactly, when you started, what was the first beer that you made? Was it something that in your Rolodex you're like, this is a banger right here, or was it something that you're like, this will please the general population coming in?
Are you saying made here or made
Yeah,
ever?
made here.
Yeah,
Got
made,
it.
Yeah, made here. So yeah, that's a funny story in itself too. So when everything was said and done, right, when all the tanks were installed and it was go time, right, I had the training wheels had to come off in a way. It was, okay, this is, we did this based off of what you have been doing for the past 3 to 4 years. Now do it. And I remember it was at least a week after everything was installed that was our first official brew day on the system. And I told myself that no matter what beer I made, whether it was something that we've made as home brewers or something new, I was going to be uncomfortable. And at first I was leaning towards, okay, brew something that you're familiar with. Brew one of the beers that you have on file, one of your recipes that you've done, and do that, and then, and go through it. And I think it was the day beforehand, I just made the insane decision to say, you know what, I'm going to brew a beer that I've never brewed before, a style that I've never done before, and just see what happens. Because in that way, if something doesn't go right, I'm not sure if it's not going right, right? Like I haven't done it before, so how do I know? If I'm tasting it through different phases of fermentation or different parts of the brewing process, I'm not sure what it's supposed to taste like, what it's supposed to look like, anything. So that's where that was my sort of way of
It's like
making
a fail-safe.
Yeah. So the first beer that we brew on the system here is Agora, our brown ale, which is our most highly received beer that we make or we have in our lineup.
You've never made that before? That was your first time making it here?
Yeah. So we did brew a beer called Agora
I love that beer.
as homebrewers. It was an IPA. I don't know if it's in the archives anymore on our social media, but it was funny because we saw one of the homebrew label or the homebrew labels that we used to do on one of my old pieces of homebrewing equipment the other day when we were moving in Joel's house, and I said, "Oh, look at this! It's Agora." And again, it was when we were brewing, at home, but it was an IPA at the time. It is now our brown ale. And again, it is our one of our most well-received beers that we have. Typically, we try to have it here on draft as much as possible, but it goes quicker than it comes.
I don't think there's not a lot of breweries in the area that make a brown ale, though. Is it a more difficult beer to make?
I don't think it's more difficult. I mean, you have to pay respect to Community Beer Works with the Whale. They make fantastic brown ale and the variations they do with it. There are, again, I'm sorry if I'm not mentioning you by name, but there are other breweries who are making.
One Oak Cat does one. Steel Leaf did a solid one as well. I mean, both of them are respectively delicious.
Right, and I think maybe that is I can understand the question because we live in a world now where craft beer is mostly categorized by IPAs, sours, and stouts.
Right.
Which that's just the trend that it's in, that we're in right now, and lagers in some aspect. We're coming into that now, but yeah, it's not the first thing that you might be boasting to your buddies about when you come visit us is, they have this insane brown ale. That's just, those words don't go together. But I think if you're able to make a product that hits the style the right way, it will make an impression on the consumer in a point where they will enjoy it and they will tell you that they enjoy it, not only again verbally, but by their actions of consistently reordering it. So again, it's not a style that's, I guess, highly sought out by, again, the craft beer drinker, but it's something that we have, which is loved by the craft beer drinker and just the average beer drinker too, who might be getting into it, who is just the Bud Light, Blue Light drinker, which is fine. We have that as an option, for them is something lighter, refreshing, not so heavy like an IPA.
You said that lagers are kind of coming back in. We know Buffalo's like 10 years behind everything. We just talked with a women's fashion company, and she's like, yeah, we're like nowhere near what everyone else in the world is. Is it the same with beer? Are we like behind the trends in Buffalo or not?
I don't think so. No, not with beer. I mean, what else is there to do in Buffalo? Drink, eat, and sleep especially during the winter.
How's lager coming back then?
It's funny. We answered an article about this just recently, and I think lagers. I don't want to say it's coming back in a way. I mean, now obviously, our grandfathers, that was sort of the
Did
staple.
it ever go away?
Yeah, I don't think it ever went away. I just think it got sort of muted by the craft beer.
The hazy boy
hype, pretty much, yeah, and the pastry stouts and the fruited sours that So I think it got muted a little bit, but I think those consumers who have been consuming IPAs for the past 4 to 5 years aggressively. I mean, we've been drinking craft beer for again 6-7 years maybe. You get kind of sick, not sick of it, but you want to try something different. So why not resort, back to something staple?
Reliable.
Yeah, reliable. So with lagers, they are crispier, they are lighter. So in two ways, I think craft beer is still growing too. I don't think we've hit our high point with craft beer as consumers. And so lagers are a more approachable style for consumers who are just getting into craft beer. So I think that's helping with their popularity right now. But again, I also think it's those guys who were drinking the hazies for the past couple years. They want to sort of maybe start to appreciate maybe the foundation of craft beer too a little bit. Sort of dive into the history of craft beer and sort of where it originated from, which is mostly lagers and again those lighter, crispier, Viennas, Pilsners, Doppels, anything in that way.
Yeah, that's what I was just going to ask around Pilsners because I love Pilsners, and it seems like a lot of places are brewing them again.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's a lot of people that are like nerds about beer. No shot at anybody, but like people that literally, it's kind of like the whiskey folks, right?
Beer
like,
geeks.
Yeah, beer geeks. Like they'll pick a style and then go to each different brewery in the area and then try that same style and kind of rate just one style. And I think Pilsner is the perfect route to take, realistically, and it's fairly common. I mean, a lot of people, like a lot of breweries in our area anyways, almost always have a Pilsner that they make. So, yeah, I don't know. I just think it makes sense.
Yeah, and
it's a solid baseline, to kind of, see if these guys have what it takes, if you can brew a delicious, traditional Pilsner or lager like that, I mean, it's going to just really make you interested to see like what else can they do, such as like some of those traditional like brown ales, blonde ales, Doppelbock, things of that nature.
Yeah, I as a brewer, I say this. I think it's Pilsners are one of those lagers in general. A traditional lager, that's kind of a put up or shut up kind of beer. I mean, there's not much you can hide with them. It's such a when you're resorting back to German purity law, beer is hops, water, malt, and yeast. Nothing else. Nothing else goes into that. And so, if you can make a quality beer with just those 4 ingredients and that's it, which are typically going to be your lagers, and again, IPAs and whatnot, but there's dry hopping and et cetera. If you can make a beer, a lager that's not dry hopped, and you can make it good and delicious, and then that shows kind of your colors as a brewer. Yeah. So that's how I personally look at it. I'm not saying that's how it is perceived against around everybody and all brewers. But that's just how I kind of look at it. Is if you can do that, then you're a brewer. You can.
Yeah. So talking about the community of brewers, there's been a lot coming up in the area. What has been the collaboration like, or even community like, around Buffalo craft brewing? Because I feel like they're popping up, but we're not oversaturated yet, even though I think people would think we are, but we're not, because we are a drinking town and we still like beer over basically everything at this point.
Yeah.
You guys were telling us about that study that they did where per capita with the water source that we have, we could essentially facilitate some ungodly amount of breweries total in the city.
That doesn't sound like something I would have said.
Nope. No. You're giving us way too much credit.
It sounds like something Carl would have said, honestly.
It was. I don't know if it was the boys or it was Carl or the Godfather at Flying Bison.
Tim, yeah.
Tim.
That sounds like something that he would have quite a bit of knowledge on.
Yeah, the dude's a savage. But they were literally talking about Buffalo and the infrastructure.
I think Tim, now that you're saying.
Yeah, the infrastructure that the city has, where it's just,
I believe it.
It's an ungodly amount where they're just like, yeah, you could put 5 on this corner. It's like, what are you talking about? Like, we do that with Tim Hortons. We do that with beer. Like, nobody would go to work. They'd be sleeping in the streets.
I'm kind of answer your question. Yeah, and I can speak from a small scale of this area in the First Ward, the Valley, and then Buffalo as a whole. I mean, if you come into this area, there are at least 7 breweries within 2 square miles, and don't hold me to that to a certain exact range. But
Mike's gonna bring it up next time.
Oh yeah.
Round 3,
which is cool. Like any
34 minutes 46 seconds. You said.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. And which is cool. Like any other industry, you look at anybody who's working or opening a business in the same field as you as competition, and by no means is that perceived by anybody in this industry or anybody that we've at least communicated with, and that's locally within the First Ward. I mean, Carl at Pressure Drop has welcomed us with open arms, and he'll come in here, slap 2 4-packs on the bar, and asking for nothing in return, just saying hello. He's like, "You got to try this. This is incredible," and everything. And then so him by name, especially. I mean, you've got the guys over at Beltline who have helped us. You've got John at Buffalo Brewing who has helped us. So again, it's just. We love seeing this area grow. I mean, we have Sad Boys opening up right down the street on Exchange in a couple months, hopefully. And I think that does nothing but draw more people to this area. Who wants to drive 20 to 30 minutes to a new spot when you're having it, like when you're having a boys' day? Like, no, you want to, or girls' day. You want to drive. you want to get in your car, get in your Uber responsibly, and go to the next place, and hop and not have that much lag time between. And so I think these areas that have all these breweries are seeing that draw, that sort of. That
it's a community.
Yeah.
Again, we all continue to benefit when each other does well. And it's as Dylan's saying, it's a community where people just want to get together, share an interest of appreciating and loving and drinking beer, and you're in a group of like-minded individuals when you're here, and there's very little that's more welcoming than something like that.
I feel like breweries are now like the new wine trail. Like everyone just wants to go somewhere and just walk to the next brewery and be like, "Oh my God, this is so crazy."
There's so many bike tours that we see here over summer.
Cool.
You just get like 20 to 30 people in their biker gear just rolling up, and we get that. We saw that quite a bit, and probably
come
gonna see
for
more.
one quick and sit down, relax, rest their legs, and then on to the next one.
When you started, when you're behind the bar and you're hearing people all the time being like, "When are you getting cans? When are you getting cans?" at what point we're like, all right, let's do cans? Was it a logistics thing where you just didn't have the ability to do it, or like what prompted that we got to get cans in here? Because people can see behind right now, like there's a huge cooler full of it. So what was that like?
Yeah, I mean, going again back to kind of what we had talked about earlier, just kind of listening to and seeing the voice of your consumer when you had so many people asking like, oh, do you guys have this to go? And the option was like, if you have a growler, or if we can fill a growler from you. But cans are just way more appealing to people. They grab them, they go, they can share them with their buddies. They can buy 4, only open up 1. So kind of getting that response and those requests from people that consistently came in here. 1 was just something that we wanted to do for them, but then 2, it was just another way of kind of getting those little moments of appreciating and seeing that like, hey, what we're putting out is something that people want to take at home. There's something that they want to take to Thanksgiving dinner, so and share with their friends and family and stuff like that. So I think it was a little bit of mix of just like making sure we answered what the customer wanted, and also just kind of appreciating what that meant and how that felt to us.
Sure.
Yeah, and that's Joel's answer from the the front of the house consumer sort of approach, but it was a logistical thing too. We had to make sure that we had enough beer to supply the bar, and then be able to still have enough beer to again, for cans to consistently have cans. And again, that was something that we had to analyze over time to make sure it wasn't that we were just able to dive into head first and say we're doing cans right now. Because again, if we didn't properly strategize and prepare for that, there could have been weekends that cooler is empty and there's nothing in there because we are running out of product because we're going through at the bar. So there was a lot of behind the scenes as well. Now we wanted to do cans from the get-go. We wanted to have that as an option, but again, logistically it just wasn't there. Sure. And so fortunately we're in a spot right now that we are able to consistently make sure that cooler is filled every week for consumers to take home a majority of what we have on draft. Based off of our scheduling of packaging, we can't always make sure that any sort of new releases that come out on Thursday or Friday are going to be in cans for that weekend, but they are most likely going to be in cans the following.
Sure.
So,
see, Derek?
What?
They strategized. They thought about it logistically. They didn't just dive head in and say, we're buying a camera, it'll be here Wednesday. They thought about it. Isn't that nice? It's refreshing.
We also felt. We strategized, but we also felt.
See, thank you, Joel. I appreciate it.
So, but also the word strategize sounds so elegant and thought out. It's not. It's usually me having a panic attack at the bar, Joel talking me off of a ledge here. And so when I use the word strategize, it's not like we sat down with our books and our papers and we said, we'll be ready by this date to do it. It's more like I'm freaking out. Joel's like, we're going to figure it out. We're going to do it. And then I go, okay, we will do it. And that's our strategy. And it's worked out so far.
Doesn't that sound more like us?
A little bit. But I like that they're publicly saying that they think about thinking. We should try that.
Yeah, we should try that. Yeah. So, in hindsight, do you think you bought the right size equipment? Or would you have, if you had to do it over, would you go up another, what are you at, a 5 gallon?
5 barrel.
Five barrel, yeah. So would you have gone up to like
Whiskey
a 7
guys.
or an 8 or something?
No, I don't think so.
No.
Not right now. I mean, again, and with the building itself, we still have some limitations. We are, and again, it's a good problem to have. I say the phrase all the time. We have champagne problems here. So right now, we are still not brewing a majority of our beers at full capacity. So a lot of our beers, like our IPAs, for example, we're brewing those at 4 barrels right now. Some of the lagers and such will brew 5 or 6, but we're working on finding a solution to make sure that we are able to brew more. But right now it's that limbo game of cooler space, walk-in space, and whatnot. So no, I think 5 barrels was a healthy middle point. I wouldn't want to go any smaller. I think any bigger would still be overkill because we're still not using our system to its full 100% capacity. I'd say we're about 75 to 80. So I'm very happy with, and I'm very happy with the size, brewing equipment we have.
And to be kind of clear on what Dylan was kind of saying as well, is it's not that we have 4 or 5 different beers that we're just sitting on. I mean, right now you come in here, our tap list is 10 or 11 beers and 2 hard seltzers that we have. So I mean, we're not just it's not that limbo of that we have the same amount or the same beers that we're just kind of waiting to get rid of. It's just the I guess again we have so many that we are offering to people, and it's just trying to find that balance of what's the right number.
Sure.
Can you guys talk about your seltzers? I mean, we're kind of late into the interview now, but like your seltzers are amazing.
Like a dill pickle seltzer for a half second too.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, we can breeze over the dill pickle one, but
It was a hit, bro.
I understand it was a hit, bro. But I told my full transparency, my wife is like, "Where's the interview tonight?" And I was like, "BriarBrothers," and she's like, "Oh my God, they're seltzers." I was like, "I know. I'm just gonna go have a quick one with the boys. I'll be back after." And she's like, "This is ridiculous." So I was like, "Just hang out with the dog, you know. Like I'll be back. I'm gonna go hang out with the boys."
It's in cans, so you can bring some home for
Ooh.
Kelly.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. So yeah, we'll go over logistics later. We got to think about thinking.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
So
yeah.
the
Feel it. Just
That's right.
feel it. Just feel it.
sounds good. What was the seltzer journey like? Because it's
I mean,
definitely a journey.
I mean, I really can't say that there's I don't know. I'm trying to be.
Politically correct.
We don't really do anything outside the box when it comes to the seltzers we make. We follow a very standard procedure and approach to making them.
But they're good.
Well, thank you. There's some things that we do, and again, it's not anything that we've pioneered or that we've come up with ourselves. There are procedures that we do to provide a more quality product when it comes to seltzers. But again, it's not like we're doing this outside the box thing when it's coming to making seltzers. There is there is a good amount of time that we put into trying different flavor additives, different products, see what works best. Is it anything too sweet, anything too sour? So we do put a decent amount of time into that of what we're putting into our base seltzer when we are brewing it. But again, I don't want to take too much credit for it because we are just following just a very standard procedure and approach to making seltzers.
Sure.
Yeah, I
But
think
thank you. Thank you.
Of course.
Really kind of the reason that we jumped into seltzers so quickly, I think, is because, to try and appeal to more than just the beer drinker. The licensing that we have with New York State for this microbrewery is just that of a microbrewery license, which allows us to only have and serve our alcoholic beverages here. We can't bring in a cider or a seltzer from an outside source or vendor. So we kind of needed to find and make it. So, it was more so a need than a want at first. And then it turned into, as I guess what we're hearing, that, people want and like them.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and kind of to divert a little bit, based, with what Joel said too, is not having the liquor license in order to do mixed drinks and cocktails, so only be able to serve malt-based products with the exception of seltzers. That also kind of shows in our tap list. Being a 5-barrel system with, now 6 fermenters, we originally started with 5, we've added one on, to have anywhere at any given time when it comes to beer options, 10 to 12 different beer options on draft that is all made in-house is something that we take a lot of pride in too. So to create a variety, so that you're not coming to the brewery for the first time and only seeing one IPA, one lager, one sour, and one dark beer. Within those respected categories, you're giving 1 to 2, possibly 3 options. So that's something that we take a lot of pride in, and we put a lot of energy is to make sure that our tap list is consistently extensive and there is a variety to it. So when someone who might not love beer comes in, at least they have an option aside from seltzers when you're here. So again, it takes a lot of work, a lot of strategy to
My man.
A lot of thinking. So what was, speaking of thinking, the table beer?
Yeah.
What is that? What does that mean? And where did that thought process come from?
Yeah, so the table beer is something that we just released when this comes out about 2.5 weeks ago. And the style itself, it's hard to sort of pinpoint it to a specific category of what that beer is. It's not an ale. It is an ale, excuse me. But it doesn't really have a definitive category that it falls in. Again, when you determine beers, there's a lot of things that determine it. IBUs, SRM, alcohol percent, and that's just within sort of a broad way to categorize beer. With a table beer, for example, though, SRM is the color of the beer, so it can be a pale color like the Kolsch I was drinking, or as dark as the stout. With a table beer, there is no really definitive line of the color that beer can be. So it can be as dark as you were consuming, or as light as I was consuming with the Kolsch. So that's just sort of one way to explain it. Same with IBUs, bitterness. That's, again, what hops we're using in it during the boiling process. not really a specific target for that. You want to fall within a very approachable and easy palatable IBU, but again, there's nothing that's too dialed in that you need to be at. But again, sort of to get away from the nerdiness of all of it, a table beer is just a very general, easy drinking beer. And as Mike was saying before the interview, it's very common in Europe to have just a light ABV drinkable beer that substitutes water sometimes. Again, in European customs, having that lighter style beer. So that's kind of what we wanted to resort to. And I'm not saying it's anything like it, but when we were designing it and sort of producing it, it reminds me of McSorley's in New York. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar. Mm-hmm. You get two options, light or dark. That's it. There's nothing more to it. And so again, and that's where my brain kind of went when we were designing this and sort of approaching it. And with being able to offer it for only $3 all day, every day, that also took a lot of strategy and and thought to be able to create a well-made product that we can offer at that cost and that price point. And we take a lot of pride in that because we've had reviews and consumers coming in and trying it and saying that they would have no issue paying double the price for it. And that means a lot to us that we're able to offer that product that people wouldn't mind paying double for.
Which would only be $6.
That's right.
Math. But no, you're right. When you said it's a table, when you announced it's a table beer, I saw the Instagram post. Obviously, I liked it, and then I shared it. But then I was like, I'm like, okay, cultured swine. Like, this is unbelievable. Like, I'm going to tip my hat to you, good sir. Because the only time I've ever heard of it was in Europe. And the fact that it's in Buffalo is just like the whole universe just shrank.
Sure.
I was like, how in the world is this a thing? And then you're like, $3 all day, every day. I'm like, God damn, I'm going to have to go back. I'm like, this is ridiculous.
It's so good, too.
It is. It's like, there's a lot of fruity notes to it, and it's just so easy to drink.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's a dangerous $3 beer, man.
Thank you. Yeah, I personally I'm a fan of it. It's one of very critical of the product that we make here, and I'd say it's well within the top 10 right now of just, and again, not even just based off of the cost and how we marketed it, but just flavor wise. I enjoy drinking it as usually my daily driver when I'm here or whatnot.
Not while he's driving.
Yeah.
No,
yeah.
right. But it's got to pair well with food.
Yeah,
for like how balanced it is.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not going to like overpower the meal that you get, and then at the same time, it's, if anything, it's going to complement it. Plus, you can achieve that. I need something to go with this food, but I'm not trying to spend $45.
We should get you here. It sounds like you would do great if you were just trying to be our upseller. I mean, that's a great idea.
I could just stand outside.
Yeah. No, stay inside. It's warmer in here.
Yeah, right.
Well, in summer, I'll put sunscreen on just my nose.
Yeah.
And
the BriarBrothers Bro Tank.
Exactly. Yeah, BriarBrothers Bro Tank. I'll start cardio now.
With the slogan on it. So you said, though, the table beer can taste differently from time to time, right?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, there's no definitive really
classification.
Yeah, classification to it.
That's
so
crazy.
Now, from a producer standpoint, I would like it to taste the same every time we make it. We're going to use the same ingredients and the same methods when we do make it. But again, if you go to another brewery and try one of their table beers, and there are a couple that not locally that I'm aware of, but I've had one at another location brewery. And again, it was lighter in color, had a different taste to it, but at the end of the day, it's still a approachable, low price, low ABV, easy drinking beer. And
checks all the boxes.
Right, and again, it appeals to that new consumer that we're talking about with pilsners or lagers. Again, light, easy, approachable.
What is the ABV on the
4?
It is 4?
Yeah.
Okay. Gosh, yeah, it's a good beer.
So
nice
good.
job.
So what's next? Do you guys are you just kind of trying to continue with the momentum that you had? Have you talked about anything else outside of that? Like, what's next for you guys?
Are you speaking beer-wise, or what are you?
Everything.
Anything and everything you want to discuss. That's public.
Well,
anyways.
No, I think, again, we've always been super transparent with, kind of what we're doing, how we're doing things. I mean, the idea is to continue to just build off of the momentum that we have, kind of never settling. We've always been, our motto is, humble and hungry. I know it's probably taken by others as well, but it's something that we continue to hold ourselves to. So kind of just seeing what happened and what worked and what was being received well last year, or last summer, I should say, is something that we definitely want to continue to build on. Some things that we're very excited about coming up. We're approaching St. Patrick's Day, which of course is a very well received holiday in this neighborhood. So we have we haven't officially announced it yet, but we're having a St. Patrick's Day neighborhood,
Nice.
Kind of extravaganza, if you will, where we'll have live music lined up all day. We'll have the food trucks out here as well, and just kind of like one of those really very involved in terms of like community and fun atmospheres to be around all day.
You like almost quivered when you said it. I feel like it's because you realize the amount of brewing that has to go into that. Are you guys already prepping for that?
And are you doing a green beer?
We're not going to do a green beer.
Thank
No.
you.
No.
You're just trying to make enough beer.
Yeah, make enough beer.
Yeah, I don't think anybody cares if it's green on St. Patrick's Day in the first ward. I'm going to be honest.
Yeah.
No.
We got everything finalized about a week ago or so, and so I was able to sort of now do my part and make sure that we have the product available at the time. So I'm okay with that. I feel comfortable now. We'll see
what was
happens.
that? What was that conversation? I mean, I assume you're just like, all right, St. Patty's Day. You're like, okay, hold on, and then you're like, let's do these beers, and you're like, okay, I'm going to take the ingredients times 12, times 8, times 6. Is that pretty much how that went? Where you're trying to quantify how much of it?
Yeah, I mean, like I mentioned before, it's usually me sitting at the bar, Joel on the other side, my hand on my head, like rubbing it in disbelief and saying, how are we going to do this? And then somehow we do it. Again, it's not saying it's done beautifully or perfectly or seamlessly, but it gets done. So that's it.
Cheers.
Love that.
Yeah.
Well, anything we need to talk about the Pine Pass really quick before we close out, because I think that's something too that's kind of getting some legs in the community of just like people doing this type of thing. But I want you guys to talk about yours because it has some benefits to it too.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, our Pine Pass is pretty much our way of getting a mug club. We're not at a spot here where we have the ability to hold and display multiple, dozens of mugs for an actual mug club, if you will. But the Pine Pass is just to kind of reward some of those frequent flyers, if you will. So, I mean, just the benefits of it, it's $100 a year. What you do is you get a free beer when you first purchase it, so you can use that, of course, anytime you want. You'll get a free beer during the month of your birthday. One free beer. It's not a one free beer every single month or every single day you come in during that month. We've been pointed out on that. You'll get 15% off 4-packs, 10% off merchandise and growler fills. And then something new that we're doing as well this year is that, we kind of have a referral thing as well, which if you are a Pine Pass member and you get a couple friends to sign up, your next year will be, comped on us.
Oh, cool.
And then, I almost even forgot the $5 Thursdays. So any beer all day, Thursday, $5 a pint. That could be 1, 12, 30, whatever you want to do. So, I mean, that's kind of just like our way of trying to, reward our frequent flyers.
And the quarterly raffles.
Oh, yeah, quarterly raffles. See, there's so many benefits that it's sometimes hard to remember them all if they're not right in front of me. But, yeah, so quarterly raffles for, gift cards, 4-packs, T-shirts, merchandise, private parties, stuff like that. And, it's continuing to build. We're going to continue to add benefits as we, kind of move on with this year as well. But, yeah, it's something that we've gotten a nice reception on from those that are in it, and we're super appreciative of those.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, all those benefits when a Bills hoodie nowadays is like $90. So for 10 extra bucks, you might as well just enjoy all those benefits.
There you go.
Hey, you said it.
That's right.
Well, gentlemen, thank you again. We got empty glasses, but let's cheers. I appreciate you guys. I know.
To an empty glass?
I
That's
know.
going to sink the ship.
Should we just
Yeah,
in the
tap.
air? Okay,
All right.
tapping it up.
All
All
right.
right. Tap the table.
Thank you guys again
Goodness.
for everything that you guys continue to do.
Dude, of
We
course.
can't leave without saying thank you to you guys again. What you do for not only just the beer community but like small business community in this area is something that we don't forget about. The people that I think that you guys talk to and interview really take in and appreciate and love what you guys do for them, for the community that they try and support. So again, kudos to you guys and cheers to everything you guys continue to do, and can't wait to see what's next.
Thanks, man.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Ditto.
That's
Ditto.
motivation for another month.
Yeah, right. There you go. Perfect.
Damn.
Honestly, if you haven't come to BriarBrothers yet, I don't know what you're doing. You have to come here, try all their beers. Start with something like that is something that you would normally drink, but then venture out because there's so many different beers to try here that you would be very surprised that you like. Their Punch Bowl series is just like one of those ones that automatically comes to mind where it's just, would I really like an orange tangerine beer? And then you try it and you're like, yeah, I do. So try a couple beers. They do flights too, which is awesome. You can do some flights of any different type of beer that they have. Just come here, check them out, pay them a visit, get some henhouse chicken, and enjoy your time. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you guys. Thank you. Cheers.